Hey everybody, welcome back to the 62nd episode of Taps and Patience. I am AJ with Audacity Micro, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison.
How we doing?
I'm doing all right. Just making parts. That's what I do now.
Making parts. Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
So can I start with a clerical announcement?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I started the Patreon. It is patreon.com/Taps and Patience, I'm pretty sure. That Patreon money will be used expressly. Anyway, it'll be there's a word there that I'm missing. It'll be used specifically for getting Harrison and I to IMTS and hosting some sort of community meetup. Really, like at this point, there's a year to IMTS, so realistically, we'll basically be able to probably just cover Harrison's flight. That's what I'm gunning for. So if you are interested in supporting us and getting Harrison and me to IMTS, you can do so by joining the Patreon. It is not yet established, but eventually I'm going to set up a Patreon Discord. I may occasionally do live streams in that Discord once it is up and running. Maybe I can convince Harrison to do that. There are a couple higher level tiers. If you want to go poking around those, I'm not going to push those. Just give us $1 a show. That's the bottom tier. That's really the only thing we will actually ask you for. Everything above that is above and beyond. So,
yeah.
I mean, even signing up for the Patreon at all is above and beyond. Like,
yeah, I was
going to say podcast, and you don't have to pay for anything. But if you want to, you can.
Yeah. No, I do this purely just to interact with a fellow machinist once a week and to reach out to the community and meet new people. That is the main reason I wanted to do this from the beginning. And it's awesome because I've been able to meet and have some great conversations with some people. And I would love to meet more people in person at some point, including you. But
so, IMTS 2024.
Yep.
Pocket NC booth takeover. I should probably tell them at some point.
You can tell them that it's for the carabiner that they did for you.
Yeah.
Which I still want to see that machine out in the wild. That's still
IMTS
one of the machines.
2024.
I know.
Pocket NC booth.
Out in the wild, though. I mean, like,
yeah.
I want to see it released and whatnot, which I know they're working hard on it. So, cool. Speaking of
go ahead. I think we are both about to say exactly the same thing, which is speaking of machines.
Yeah, speaking of machines, our Haas is built. So, we just got to schedule delivery at this point, but we're not ready to receive. So
actually having your Haas build is not a good thing. You were hoping they would, wait until after Thanksgiving or something.
Yeah. So delay until we're ready for it. And then we want it now.
Yep.
So no, it's exciting. So it's cool that it's ready. And so now it's just basically on us on how fast we can get the shop done. And basically the plans right now are to, we got a big push until I think December 8th. I think that's the next major due date we got to hit. And so if we can get everything done by then, or before then hopefully we can use the last 2 or 3 weeks in December to just focus on the shop. So, and I'll have the inverse problem, which I hadn't thought about in a long time. We have not had a day where one, if not both machines were running since the middle of this year, which is a very cool and impressive feat for us. And it's one of those feats where it's like, for the first time, I'm looking at my machines and going, okay, I want both these things to sit for a little bit so that we can get moved over to the new shop. So that's exciting. So anyways, I interrupt you. What's your machine thing? Speaking of machines.
So I put the Tormach up on the Facebook Marketplace and a couple of Facebook groups, kind of with like a if someone were to buy this, I would take it, but like I'm not really in a rush kind of price, and somebody took it. So,
oh really?
Yeah. So I'm working out final details with them. The financing through Geneva Capital is a little bit funky with trying to sell the machine.
Mm-hmm.
I had I was unclear about exactly how that worked up until I started to go through this process. I thought that you could just transfer the lease to somebody else, and like Geneva Capital was cool with that. But
Hmm.
after talking to them today, they were like, yeah, they can take over the payments for you, but you're still responsible. And if they don't pay, then it comes back to you. And it's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not just going to trust some random guy to make his payments.
Hmm.
So that means that to sell it, I will need to buy out the rest of the lease and then sell it, like you would normally sell a machine. So,
Gotcha. And they'll have to take out a different lease if they need the cash.
correct. Yeah, so I imagine as far as this guy's concerned, it'll be basically exactly the same where he will still be paying Geneva Capital, but like basically I'm paying Geneva Capital and then they're giving me the money right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm paying Geneva Capital to buy out the lease, and then Geneva Capital is paying me the money that the selling price of the machine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a little bit funky, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, you'll get basically whatever is above and beyond how much there is left on it. So whatever price you're selling it for, that's above and beyond the sell value is what you'll get, or above
Yes.
and beyond the lease value. Sorry.
Yeah. And the selling price is basically the list price for what I paid for the Tormach, but I'm also including things like a bunch of tool holders and the fourth axis. So I basically, it works out that I get all of my equity back in the machine, is
Yeah.
how that works, or the equity in the machine itself.
Oh, that's good.
So that, I don't know, that'll give me a little bit of cash and remove my biggest chunk of monthly negative cash flow. So
So, with that being the case, what's that mean for the future of the business? Are you going to stay as a one machine shop, or are you going to try to pick up another OM, or are you going to try to get a Renaissance probe? Like, or is this just, hey, I need some cash and I will get another machine, but the cash is just to add a buffer for a little bit.
so my machine's sister machine is still for sale.
Oh, it is.
And I don't know. I haven't like actually sat down and done the math on everything. But I suspect with the money I get out of the Tormach, I can just drop in that machine and have that up and running.
Okay.
Or I could might wait for a while. The only reason I want the I do use the Tormach regularly. It still runs a lot right now, but the OM actually does not run that much because generally I'll like run a part and then program a part and then run a part, and it'll do like 4 or 5 different 20-minute cycles throughout the day. Like there's lots of spindle time left in that. Basically, the Tormach is like a pallet. It's like a pallet changer where I can just kind of quickly change over to a different setup
Mm-hmm.
for running things like the carabiners.
Gotcha.
And then also it is a insurance machine. So if the OM goes down or whatever, then I have a second spindle. Those are the two things I don't want to lose.
Gotcha. And so that would be the main reason you'd get another machine is just to get both those back.
Yeah, the ability to like basically quickly switch between two setups and the insurance factor of not being, my whole business dependent on one, 10-year-old or 20-year-old spindle. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Now, have you ever tried running any of your parts that you're running on your Tormach, any of your product based parts on the OM yet?
I have not because I haven't needed to. Because I just keep the Tormach set up for that stuff and just throw on the right fixture whenever I need to.
Gotcha.
Um, but basically, like at this point, both of them run, I would say, much less than half the day. So,
Okay.
like, I would be just fine with just the Haas.
Could you, yes and no. Even if they're both running half the day, it's still a lot harder to change out one machine to run two jobs than it is to have two machines set up for two different jobs and just leave them set up.
That's true. And maybe the answer to that is to invest in a 0 point system.
Yeah. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
am about ready to buy a new Vice. That is, I think, in my immediate future.
Are you going to go with something that goes to a 0 point?
So yes, I guess is the answer to that. Have you ever seen the? And I'm probably going to say this wrong. They're like the Zindian Vices on, like, you can get them on eBay and AliExpress and actually
I th-
Amazon.
I think so. I think I saw someone stuck one of those vices on the fourth axis of a Tormach
Mm-hmm.
because
That'd be
they're
good
really
use for them.
tiny.
Yeah, they're little tiny self-centering vices
Mm-hmm.
that, they're Chinese imports, but they're actually supposed to be pretty good. And for op one work, like, even if they don't center perfectly or there's like some jaw lift, it doesn't matter for op one.
Mm-hmm.
And the flux vice has just been life changing. And I like the mod vice has its time and place, but I'm getting a little bit tired of how long it takes to set that up. I want something that, like, no matter what size the material is, I can just tighten one screw and it works. Whereas with the mod vice, you got to, like, take out the two mounting screws and then pop out the fixture plate inserts and then, put the fixture plate inserts back in the holes that you just popped them out, and then tighten the two, and then, put your material in there to get the spacing just right, and then tighten the screws down, and then you realize that you're one hole off, and then you have to move the whole thing again. And then every
Mm-hmm.
time you want to take a part in or out, you've got to tighten two different screws. And if you tighten one more than the other, then you can warp your material funny. And it's like, no, I just wanted a single screw vice
Yep.
for my op ones.
So my Saunders vices live in my machine 90% of the time, or ninety
Your
nine percent of the time.
your mod vices?
They live inside my toolbox, not inside my machine.
Yes.
Inside
Okay.
my toolbox 99% of the time, and they only come out as a last resort, pretty much. Which, I mean, like you said, they're good vices for the right thing. But it's kind of like every tool has its place, and once you kind of get outside the mod vice space into some of the other vices, it's like mod vice. It's a good vice. It's especially for beginners who are starting out. Is an extremely versatile system. But what you miss out in that versatility is precision that you get from the other vices and the simplicity of a single lead screw. So like,
Yep.
and I don't think the mod vices have ever claimed to be anything more than what they are. I mean, they're a great system. They are, but they're depending on what you're doing, they're not the best.
Yeah.
So
They're good at everything, but they're not
not
the
not
best
great.
at anything.
Yeah, yeah,
They are acceptable at everything, but they're not great at anything
yes,
except really big awkward stuff
yeah. No,
that
I
they are
love them
great
for
for. Yeah.
that. That is what I love them for. Is anytime I have a part that needs to span multiple vices, I'll take all my vices off and put the Saunders stuff on. The Saunders vices, the mod vices.
Did
So
you see the Lang new 0 points the wrong word, but mounting system for vices?
mm-mm.
So they basically launched what are they called? Like a Picatinny rail. They basically have a Picatinny rail for vices now, and they
Maybe I did
drop
see that.
they drop in your machine's like T slot to like inherit the alignment from that, and then they have notches on them. Every, it's probably like 2 millimeters or 3 millimeters or something, and you just like can slide your vices wherever you want along the rail,
Oh, that's cool.
and it's still theoretically repeatable. So you can do you can tear down a setup and then put it back. But
Hmm.
I assume it's for doing the guy who needs to machine a 6 foot long bar or something.
Yeah,
But I thought that
yeah.
was
Now
interesting.
there's as many work holding. There's more probably work holding methods than there are machine manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different systems out there, and they all have pluses and minuses and overlaps. And there's no one size fits all. And that's kind of the beauty of machining is that it's not limited. Like everyone can kind of use their imagination, and no two people's solutions to the same is the same to the same problem. Like
Yep.
everyone's solutions is different, and that's what makes machining so good. And like everyone's method of doing their parts has pros and cons, and it's always fun and interesting learning how other people do things. So yeah, speaking of which, like breaking topics ever so slightly, but I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been running some parts on the mini mill,
Hmm.
and I cannot wait till I get the new machine in because like I was running a part on the mini mill this week and it took me 30 minutes to run a part, and that was just because I was using the old Tormach feeds and speeds for a
Oh
part.
yeah.
And it's like plus the spindle was limited to 6,000, the mini mill was. And so there's just a couple different factors, but it was just like even with it being limited, it was still way faster than the Tormach, even though it couldn't go up to the same speeds. Just with the rapids and the tool changes and everything, it just was so much better.
Yep.
So cannot wait for the new machine. Oh, I'm so ready for it. It's not even funny.
And that's a lot bigger jump from like the VF3 is a lot bigger than that mini mill. It's got a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more iron in there, and
yeah. I'm sure the jump from the Tormach to the mini mill is going to be similar from the mini mill to the VF3, like just in
yeah.
terms. And what's pretty wild though is and this is an interesting problem that I ran into this week. So it'd be interesting to hear from the community on this one. So I ran some parts on I ran some taps on the Haas mini mill, and they were, I believe, M16 by 2. And the mini mill is a 7.5 horsepower machine, and it ended up pulling, I think, an 80 to 90% spindle load on that.
Okay.
I have a local machine shop that has Mazaks, and so I asked them, kind of how big of a tap can they go up to, and that's right around the limit of the max tap size that they will do. I think 3/4 is about the max they'll go, otherwise it'll stall out their spindle. And they
Hmm.
got a 30 horsepower Mazak, and the mini mill was able to do that at less than 100% spindle load, and the new Haas VF3 will have 30 horse instead of 7.5 horse. So I would think it would be able to do a much larger tap size than that even. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I had some parts, and I've been avoiding broached parts for a long time just because I don't have a broaching set.
Hmm.
The Haas lathe is technically able to broach parts. I haven't tried it yet. It has an option that we need to buy to get it, and so far I've just been turning down broach parts. But when I get the VF3, you can also broach parts on that. And once again, talk to my local machine shop that has Mazaks, and they were saying that the Mazaks are also capable of broaching, but it is not recommended because it'll destroy those machines. At least that's what the technicians say. But then you go on YouTube and you look up Haas broaching, and and they talk about the durability of their spindles and how they have years of broaching parts with no problems. And so it'd be interesting to hear from people who have done a lot of broaching on machines, because it's kind of that question: does it destroy the bearings over time? Like, is that an issue to be concerned about or not?
And to
And
be
so,
clear, you are talking about linear broaching, not rotary broaching, correct?
correct, linear
Yeah.
broaching, where you use spindle orientation to hold a position, and then you just plunge in Z and use the Z axis to cut your broach
So you're
keyway.
turning your very fancy, nice, brand new 2024 VF3 into a shaper.
Basically, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, and
I
and
find that
Haas.
amusing.
Well, I mean, yes, but Haas. It's so we there's a lot of broach parts that we have avoided to this point,
Hmm.
and having that ability would allow me to skip the stage where I get a press and a broaching set and manually press them, and I can do it all inside the machine, and then I can deburr the part. Because here's the thing: we did our first set of broach parts this week. And we had a machine that machine shop that has the Mazak. They have a press and they just press the keyways in for us,
Hmm.
or broach the keyways for us, I should say. And the edges that came off of that just look like horrible. They're really sharp and jagged, and the quality of the keyway just is not up to what I would consider good standards. Like it was, I mean, it was fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but I would like to see a higher quality brooch. And I'm pretty sure I could get that on the mill that we're getting. But when I talked to them about it, they were very poo poo on the idea of broaching on the new machine. And so it'd just be very interesting to hear from other people, other listeners, and to get your opinion on that subject.
I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody do that other than, and this is not the same thing, like Nicholas Hacko watches that are doing the guilloche. I'm bad at words today. Where they're using their kern like a shaper. I've never, I think, actually seen somebody broach on a vertical mill.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm sure people do it, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not hanging out with the right people.
Yeah, I'm not either. It's not a very common mainstream thing, but Haas promotes it pretty heavily, especially now that they got all their tooling line and they got all the broaching accessories on there. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what people have to say. And in my mind, I feel like it's a non-issue. I feel like it's something that could be easily done, especially at the sizes. I mean, most of the brooches that or most of the keyway sizes that we're looking at putting in are quarter inch or less.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
So it's not like we're putting in massive keyways. And so I feel like it should be fine. But I'd be interested to hear from any listeners who have dealt with that. So, anyways, that's my question and thought to those that listen. Um,
Yep, outside of my area of expertise.
see here, what else we got? Got any big plans for Thanksgiving? Going off topic slightly.
Just what I think is now my favorite family tradition, which is on for like my family's Thanksgiving dinner. We have just decided that like there's I have 3 siblings. We're all married. Like we all go to at least 2 Thanksgiving dinners, and so my family was like, you know what, we're done with turkey. Like two large turkey dinners like 2 days in a row. Like it's just too much turkey. So we decided that we just do weird Thanksgiving dinners now.
Oh, nice.
And it turns out if you put the same amount of effort into like a non-traditional Thanksgiving dinner that you would normally put into a Thanksgiving dinner, you can have some really awesome stuff. So like one Thanksgiving we did like tacos
Mm-hmm.
and 6 different kinds of meats to choose from and all the different toppings and homemade salsas, and it was awesome. One year we did fondue. One year we did like finger foods. Yeah,
Nice.
that's my Thanksgiving plans.
I like that. So growing up as a kid for Thanksgiving, we always would go out skeet shooting. That was kind of our tradition. And we had a different family in the neighborhood that we would do that with. And so I grew up doing that up until probably about high school. And
Okay,
then that family moved away. And they moved back recently. And so we're bringing it back.
nice.
And so the other family's kids now have their own kids. And so they're going to bring their kids. So it's going to be like the second generation
Yep,
starting out this Thanksgiving skeet shooting.
that's
And
awesome.
they've got 2 little boys and a little girl. The little boys are 7 and 5, and the little girl I think is two or
Okay.
three. So, in which she's not probably going to be interested in it, but I know both the boys are going to be going
Yeah.
nuts. So it'll be fun. So looking forward to that. And then we'll usually have a really big Thanksgiving dinner or lunch. So, which is pretty typical, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm probably just gonna take Friday off, and that's pretty much gonna be it for me, other than the
Yeah.
normal Thanksgiving activities. So nothing too special this year.
Yep. Yep. Got my brothers in town. They both live in Tennessee right now, so they're visiting. So,
Nice.
how many siblings do you have?
I have two.
You have
I have a
you have
brother and a
two,
sister.
brother and a sister. And where do you age? Where do you rank in that age group?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest.
I'm the
Okay,
youngest. Yeah.
I'm the
You,
oldest.
as I say, you seem like an oldest to me.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I got two younger brothers, um, both single, and one of them just graduated from college.
Okay.
So, um, just them, no wives, no girlfriends.
Yeah.
So, is what it is. But yeah, no, it'll be good. So,
So I decided to take a break from Instagram over the next couple weeks or two, by the way. So, guys, audience out there, the third chair, if I'm off of Instagram, I'm not dead. I'm just taking a bit of a break.
which is sad because I've enjoyed watching all of your daily uploads. It's always fun to see how things are going. Speaking of which, I saw you got your new flex work holding soft jaws in.
Yes.
So you got an extra set of those now.
Yep. Those are, I'm basically just using or keeping those in a drawer as a spare. I got probably 6 or 8 parts off of my first set so far. And just earlier today, I faced them down. So all of those parts were in the first quarter inch of the jaws. I think you get a ½ inch depth out of the jaws where the whole face of them is clear. After that, you can start hitting the locating pins on the middle jaw if you're not careful. But there's
That's
still
what I was
another
wondering.
like ½ inch down there. I just have to be careful about where I take it. So
Gotcha. That's what I was wondering is like how close can you get to the bottom before you run into things like that?
yeah. But basically, if I can get 8 parts and then another 8 parts out of a set of jaws, like that's perfectly reasonable.
Have you checked your chip bin since you got your machine?
I have actually emptied my chip bin, I think, twice.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very small chip bin, but I
How
have
do you know when
emptied it a
it's
couple
full?
times. You look at it.
Oh, it's like you don't have like coolant overflow or anything like that, or you just
I haven't yet.
okay.
Yeah, it's not a Tormach that has that automatic chip bin full notification system,
Oh
where
yeah,
when your chip bin's full, it pees on the floor for you as
yeah.
a courtesy, so you know when your chip bin's full.
Which happened to us today. Weston was running parts, and I was out delivering parts, and I came back in, and the floor is just soaked.
Hmm.
And Weston was working over in the corner. I was like, Weston, do you see this? He's like, yeah. He's like, I see it. I was like, chip bin overflow? Yep. He's like, got everywhere? Yep. You already emptied it out? Yep. He
I
was just like done.
I was running a part today, and I this machine has some like weirdness around the door that causes coolant to run out. But like I hadn't noticed any like coolant leaks.
Mm-hmm.
But then today, like I think the geometry of the part was just wrong and like spraying the coolant into just the wrong place. And there was coolant, coming out of the machine. I was like, where is this coming from? I walked around back and I realized that the back panel of my enclosure is not connected to the side panel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all the fasteners are missing.
Oh,
It's like,
no.
why is this? Who did this?
So, is that something you can fix pretty
Oh yeah,
easily?
it's just Sikaflex and some quarter 20, socket head cap screws. It's like, huh? How did I not notice this earlier?
So, speaking of weird things to happen on your machines, I had something weird happen on my Tormach on Sunday.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. So, we came in on Sunday and we were going to do a little bit of work, and I started the machine and did a warm up cycle, and I was working on programming a part. And Weston was off, I don't know, organizing material or something, getting something ready for the job. Neither one of us were near the Tormach. And the Tormach finished its warm up cycle, and I wasn't quite ready to use it yet, and so I was sitting there programming parts. So it's quiet in the shop, and all of a sudden we hear this loud pop. We look around and nothing, and then not long after that we start hearing this. Well, I said it was a loud pop, and then it was a hissing, and we
Okay.
had an airline that busted
Oh
on
really?
on the ATC.
Huh. That's annoying.
Yeah, and so it took us a while to figure out where it was coming from. But yeah, blew an airline on the ATC, like blew a hole through one of the hoses.
Was
and
it like flailing around or just like hissing?
it was just hissing. It like split it along the lengthwise of, or along like it didn't cut it in half, but it split it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like along the direction of the tube, not along the diameter.
Was it one that saw movement or one that's stationary?
One that's stationary,
No, interesting. I don't
but
know. Those tubes go bad. At my last job, we had an old laser,
mm-hmm.
and it was just like, I mean, maybe not monthly, but like a couple times a year, it would blow a hose somewhere, either water or air, and you have to go track it down and replace it. Like it's just the thing that laser did because it was 20 years old.
So the only thing I can think of is that hose was hanging down a little bit on the back, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it was getting hit by chips.
Yeah.
And so it looked like the area that it popped at looked like it had been kind of sandblasted,
Okay.
maybe with chips or something,
That
because
would
it
make
just had a little
sense.
bit of a different texture than everything else. So that's the only thing I
We
could think of.
when Scott was here, we had a hose blowout in the powder coating room. And we used those same like quarter-inch press to connect kind of hoses
Mm-hmm.
and fittings to feed the powder coat gun. And one of the steps is you use the propane torch to burn off the hook, so there's a good electrical connection between the parts and the rack, so that it gets grounded and the powder can stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when Scott was torching off one of those hooks, I think it just had more coating on it than normal, and a little burning ball of flaming powder coat went down and just happened to land on that hose and melted a hole through it, and psh.
Yeah.
But that was just one of those one in a million flukes.
Yep. Oh man. Well, I'm trying to
So when
think if I
Harrison
got.
and I sat down today, or well, before we started the podcast, we said it was going to be a speed run. So this
Yeah.
episode may be a little bit shorter.
Yep. That's what I was just thinking of. If I had anything else that had happened that was worthy of podcast worthy.
I have a tool right now that's running in my mill that has a 4-inch stick out. I don't think I told you that part beforehand.
A 4-inch stick out?
Yes.
I hope that's in your Tormach.
Nope. That's the Haas.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that happen here. I'm making a part that's taller than normal. That was one. So I couldn't use my normal tooling. I think the part walls were 1.25 inches, and I just happened to pick up a tool. It was like Lakeshore Carbide has clearance tools, and I
Mm-hmm.
needed to throw something in my cart one day to like get to the free shipping threshold. And so I threw this tool in, and it came in handy for this part. But it has it's a 3/8 inch diameter. It has 1.5 inches of flutes, and then it has like 3 inches of shank or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
And because I'm using the tiny ISO 20 tool holders, there's not enough room to get the shank all the way choked up on it. I don't have a way of
Oh.
cutting it. But I'm just doing PET plastic.
Yeah, so you'll be
And so
fine.
I'm like, it'll be fine, right? And I just like backed off my depth of cut and width of cut by 50%. It was like, it'll be fine. It sounded fine. It's running right now. It may have like broken or crashed or something, but
You won't know until you're done with the
I won't know. I
podcast.
won't know until the podcast is done. We're back to Schrodinger's end mill, but
Oh my goodness.
it sounded fine. I was only doing 1/2 inch depth of cut, so
So let me ask you another question then. This is an interesting question. Do you think job shop work is making you a better machinist?
yes, absolutely, 100%. I wish I'd done this way earlier.
Do you think as you're doing these parts that you could make better product parts?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything product wise that you've done in the past or relatively recently that you would change a few strategies up now that you've done some more job shop stuff?
Like parts that I would make differently.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of anything that like I've made myself or that I've made for myself. I made some stuff for Weiss Wysteco. I don't remember the name of his company. It's like Wyste, and he has like some letters after that. I don't remember. Sorry,
Yeah.
person, but I made them on the Tormach, and they just didn't turn out well. And I ended up just like not billing him for it. I was like, I can't charge you for these. And part of that came from doing op 2s, and I didn't have a nice vice like the Flux vice, and so the chamfers on my op 2s were all wildly off. And by they weren't wildly off, but they were noticeably off. They were visibly off. And then
Mm-hmm.
also because the Tormach has that weird stepping issue on the diagonals, I
Mm-hmm.
also made some pry bars for him. And the stepping on the diagonals was just so bad on that machine. And I also salami sliced those. And I think in the future, I would just soft jaw them. Just get a bar, cut them out, soft jaw them, do the up two.
So have we seen the end of send cut send laser cut edge parts for products?
I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, I know. But you did do a lot of those, and it was very impressive that you're able to like
Yeah.
get going with that. Like that was something that was a method of making parts that I hadn't really even considered, but you did them and they looked really good when you were done. Like they honestly turned out really good for what they were.
Yep. They came
But
out well.
yeah, but
They're,
now that you're fully machining stuff, you probably won't ever do that again.
yeah. Those actually, no, those are coming. Well, not those, but a laser cut send part is coming back to, I guess, design the everything.
Oh, really?
Yep. Titanium meeples. I had such a hard time making those titanium meeples that I could not mill them at a reasonable cost because the material cost was high and the tooling cost was high, and I scrapped a bunch of them, mostly because of work holding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, Scott, if you want these, just laser cut them. And so Scott ordered some from Send Cut Send, and he's going to come use my tumbler to tumble them. But
Oh, that's very nice. That'll be cool to see how those come out.
yeah,
That's actually that's a good product for them.
yeah.
That'll look fine. That'll be fine.
But yeah, I was like, Scott, if you want me to make these, they're going to be like $5 each. If you want to sell them for $5 each, I'm fine with that. But I'm so done with making these stupid meeples, at least out of titanium. The other ones I salami slice, and they're cake. They come out really well. Finishing is super easy. Like they're fantastic. But making the stupid ones out of the titanium sheet was a pain.
Have you tried salami slicing on the OM yet?
No, I'm worried to because I don't want to run a slitting saw in it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I could like as long I could go with a smaller saw, probably like a key seat cutter, and
Or
just
you,
don't go anything larger than a half inch or whatever. But
yeah, and if you go with a thinner diameter as well, you should be fine.
yeah,
So that's something I've been trying to figure out. I just ran, I ran a salami slice method on some really tiny geometry parts. Like they were like a 16th inch tall and a 1/8 inch wide and a 1/4 inch long, and they
were
were
those
like an
the were those the ones you sent me a picture of?
yeah, and they're like an oval with a hole in the middle, and then they had like a chamfer that was on the inside, and they actually turned out really well on the Tormach. I was super impressed with how they turned out on the Tormach. But I did the salami slice method on those, and they basically would disappear into the chip bin.
Yeah,
Like I had chips that were the same size as the parts, basically. So it was so hard to find them.
yep. That is a problem with the salami slice method.
Um, but they turned out really good. And then I had another part that I did a key seat cutter with an internal snap ring, and it turned out really good, really good. I was really happy with that. But that one I did on the mini mill, just because it had a bore that was 8/10, and
Okay.
I didn't feel like doing that on the Tormach.
Yeah, you have to use a reamer or something.
Yeah. So
I took a really dumb zometry part that I'm excited to get to work on.
there's so many isometry parts out there that like it's like, can I try it, and then if I succeed I get paid, if I don't succeed I get like half or something.
Yeah.
It's like, can I take it knowing that I'm probably going to fail, but I just want to test my skills as a machinist?
Yeah, I have a plan.
That's good.
How do I describe this part to people? So basically, it is a disc. This is all PEEK plastic.
Oh,
It's a disc that I haven't. I should check the thickness of that, but it's a very thin disc. It's probably like 50 thou or something thick. That has like some kind of serpentine little fluid paths in it. And then on either side of the disc, there are 1/8 inch NPT fittings with it's like a 20 thou hole from the 1/8 inch to the little fluid channels.
oh my! I didn't know that.
So it's
That's crazy.
basically like machining a wet noodle that is large. It's like machining a lasagna noodle.
Yeah, it's taking a quarter and super gluing 2 NPT fittings to either end
Yeah.
and machining that shape, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Except the NPT fittings aren't in a line; they're offset like an S.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to like machine out the shape so where it's just flat on both sides. Like basically make the whole thing the width of the NPT fittings. And while it's in that shape, I'm going to do the slots through it so that they have more support. And then I'm going to flip it on the end and do on each end and do the NPT fittings. And then I'm going to put it back down horizontally and machine away half the material and then flip it over and machine away the other half of the material.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'll fill the channels full of wax before I machine them again.
Oh, I was gonna say that sounds like a really good method, except for the channels in the middle could deflect out of the way. So I would
I was
almost
going
do
to fill
those
that
last.
full of wax.
I was gonna say that or do them last. Yeah, either or. It'll be interesting. I wish you luck.
But there's a lot of profit in that job, so
yeah, I wonder why.
It was about $200 worth of materials and like $1,400 worth of pay on this one. So, well, Harrison's yawning. So,
we've reached the end. This is rapid fire for us. We're done in under an hour. So,
yeah.
New record. So anyways, those of you who've been listening, thanks for listening to the special edition.
Just keep going.
Special Thanksgiving edition of the podcast. So, thanks, and look forward to AJ coming back to the podcast because he just ran off, and so I've lost my train of thought. That's all right. Thanks for hanging out with us to the end, and this is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Audacity Micro.
I can confirm the tool is still there, and my machine is absolutely covered in white plastic.